All right, Shalom. As always, I'm thankful and I'm grateful to be able to come out here once again to preach and to prophesy unto my people, being you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. According to the Holy Bible, you are the biblical Israelites. This is based off of your father's paternal line. It's about agnate relations, in which determines your lineage, okay? I'm not out here teaching about so-called black or white people. Mingling those two shades together, you get gray. There are no gray people walking the earth. There are no so-called black or white people walking the earth. I'm not out here teaching colorism. And any man who's in the spirit is not out here teaching colorism, because the nation of Israel is likened unto a speckled bird. We look like all nations under the sun. And before I can go any further, I have to give all thanks and praises unto our power, the power of Israel, not the power of any other nation. And seeing that I don't come in my own name, what is his name in whom I serve? Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Warakakwadash. Peace, blessings, and much respect to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, on down to the rest of the elders who rule well within Israel. Salutations to the hopeful elect throughout the four corners of this whole entire earth, no matter where, whom they may be, or what they may look like, pushing out this purified truth. To the rest of the church who believe as well, you men who may not be teachers or prophets, you women, sons, and daughters also. And the water to Yahweh Shai, because without him enduring and going to that cross for the nation of Israel and the nation of Israel alone, none of this would even be possible whatsoever. We are in the season of World War III. We are in the season of our salvation, okay? And as much as we talk about World War III, those who are ignorant or who may not know, they may ask the question, okay, if World War III is going to happen, if the nuclear missiles are going to be sent off, what's going to happen to you guys that are out there teaching? Well, we are hoping to be delivered. We're looking forward to being saved, okay? But right now, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, because he works how he works in his season, he's allowing his elect to be sealed. And once his elect is sealed, then he's going to allow, them nuclear missiles to ultimately be sent off. But what's going to happen to those that are of his? What's going to happen to the elect when those missiles get sent off? Okay? Well, let's jump into the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 7 and verse 43. But the day of doom shall be the end of this time. And the time that we are in Esau's world. So the Esau, or the Edomites of today, being the so-called white race for the majority, okay? They are the ones in the power seat. They are the ones in position, and other nations follow behind them, okay? But the end of this time, the end of Esau's age, the end of Esau's empire, which includes America, is going to be ended with doom, okay? Nuclear doom. But the day of doom shall be the end of this time. So nuclear destruction is going to bring forth the end of this age and the beginning of the immortality for it to come, wherein corruption is past. So once that doom comes, once them nuclear missiles come, immortality starts for the elect. Now, how is that going to take place? Okay? It's going to take place by those who are of Yahweh Shai being delivered, taken up into chariots, wherever the elect may be all throughout the earth. Let's touch on Isaiah to give you an example of that. Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 11. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time. So this is speaking of those outside of Babylon, because there's not only going to be a great deliverance here in America, there's going to be a great deliverance all throughout the earth. But America is going to be totally wiped out with nuclear missiles. The end of America is going to be doomed. All right? And this shall come to pass in that day, that the Lord shall set his hand again, the second time, to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros, which is another part of Egypt, and from Cush and from Elam, okay, going into those East Indians, and from Shinar, and from Hamath. And I believe Shinar, that may have been located in ancient Babylon, okay? And from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. So the point being, there are Israelites everywhere. Wherever we are scattered, we're going to be gathered if we are of Yahawashi. But going back to what I was asking before, what's going to happen when them nuclear missiles get sent off to those who are of Yahawashi? Well, the answer is easy. If we're of his and we're still alive in these bodies, we're going to be delivered. That's how we're going to be given immortality. Let's read 2nd Ezra 7:43 one more time. But the day of doom shall be the end of this time. So this present time is Esau's time. His time is going out with a bang. And the beginning of the immortality for to come, being Jacob's world, we are going to be immortal, speaking of the Israelites, wherein corruption is past. So right now we are in corruptible bodies. But in the world to come, we're not going to be in these corruptible bodies. We're going to be made immortal. But that's going to take place as we're taken up into what you know as spaceships, or a spaceship. Yahawashi is going to come with a great deliverance. He's coming with a huge spaceship to deliver his elect here out of America. And then after that, there's going to be a second deliverance where the elect, wherever they may be, are going to be taken up in ships also. And we're going to be gathered together, and we're going to be taken to Mount Zion. Okay, we'll get into that in a minute. But let's go to Sirach chapter 51. Sirach, also known as the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 51 and verse 12. For thou savest me from destruction, and deliverest me from the evil time. Therefore will I give thanks and praise thee, and bless thy name, O Lord. So we're looking forward to being delivered from that great destruction, being that day of doom. Now this is a man named Joshua. When you read it, it says his name is Jesus, but it's really Joshua, okay? Being his name means salvation, okay? Yahawashi, he is salvation. He is the Joshua, okay? But this Joshua, in this scripture, it says, for thou savest me from destruction, and deliverest me from the evil time. And the days up ahead are going to be the most evil times ever known to mankind. And the Lord is going to deliver his from that. Therefore will I give thanks and praise thee, and bless thy name, O Lord. So the elect are going to praise him and bless his name. The elect are going to call upon the true names and be delivered. All right? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 26. Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 10. That's not what I want. Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 20. Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. So when them nuclear missiles come, the elect are going to be taken up into a spaceship. Now the scriptures call it chambers because it's going to be like a parlor. I believe when you go into that word chambers, it goes into a parlor. And if you know anything about a parlor is very fancy looking. Okay, we can only fathom what those chariots would look like on the inside, but we will see eventually, okay? And some of us have before, we just don't remember. Come, my people, being the Lord's elect, enter thou into thy chambers and shut thy doors. And that's speaking of the elect being abducted into the air. And shut thy doors about thee. So when the elect get taken up and protected from the destruction to come, those who are left down here in America are going to be melted. Because the doors of salvation, being Yahweh Shai is that door. Yahweh Shai is coming to deliver his elect. And once they get taken up, that door of salvation is going to be closed to everybody else. Okay? Enter thou into thy chambers and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself as it were for a little moment until the indignation be overpassed. So when we get taken up, we're going to hide ourselves because Yahweh Shai is going to be kicking a lot of ass, man. Those who aren't written in the book of life in that day, it's going to be a terrible ending for them. Okay? But we're going to be protected if we're of his. We're going to watch it happen while being on the chariot. We're going to watch the destruction from the air. Okay? Let's go to Revelation chapter 14. Revelation chapter 14 and verse 9. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the power, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. So we are going to witness that nuclear destruction. But the nuclear destruction can't take place until the mark of the beast is implemented. Okay? So when them nuclear missiles get sent off, the mark of the beast would have to be established and made mandatory. Okay? So we understand those missiles are not going to get shot off in your sleep, and the mark of the beast hasn't even came yet. Although it's here, it hasn't been made law yet. But there is going to come a day when the mark is here. Eventually, the nuclear missiles are going to be sent off, and the elect are going to be taken up, and they're going to witness the destruction of Babylon within a huge chariot, looking out the windows. And then those who aren't written in the book of life, they're going to be tormented. They're going to be burned up and melted. Okay? So what's going to happen to us during World War III if we're of his elect and the missiles get sent off? We're going to be taken up into the air, and we're going to watch the nuclear destruction. And as we're taken up into the air, our bodies are not going to be how they are right now. We're going to be changed. Okay? Let's go to 1 Thessalonians. Chapter 4 and verse 16. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of the power. And the dead in Mashiach shall rise first. So those who have died within this ministry, when Yahweh Shai returns with the host of angels, those who have died first are going to be risen up and taken into them chambers first. But then the remaining elect who are still alive are going to also be taken up so that they don't get touched by that nuclear destruction, and also so that they don't get caught up in having to be a martyr or to receiving that chip. Okay? Because if it was up to Esau, he would put a chip in everyone, and then those who don't take it, He would just get rid of them completely. Okay? But the Lord's not going to let that happen. Verse 17, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, speaking of the chariots, to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore comfort one another with these words. So when we get taken up, if we're of the elect, our bodies are going to change. We're not going to be these same mortals that we are right now. So when the nuclear missiles get sent off, the Lord is going to zip over here with them chariots of salvation to take us up out of here. Okay? Habakkuk 3 and verse 8. Was the Lord displeased against the rivers? Was thine anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea, that thou didst ride upon thine horses and thy chariots of salvation? So those clouds, which are known as chariots, they're coming to bring salvation to the elect. The bow was made quite naked according to the oaths of the tribe, even the word, Salah. Thou didst cleave the earth with rivers, the mountains saw thee, and they trembled. The overflowing of the water passed by. The deep uttered his voice and lifted up his hand on high. The sun and moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of thine arrows they went, and at the shining of thy glittering spears. So when them nuclear missiles get sent off, them chariots of salvation are going to zip over here and deliver the elect of Israel. And they're going to be taken up, and they're going to be changed in the blink of an eye. They're going to be made immortal. And then they're going to be hidden from the destruction to come as they watch the destruction from in the sky. Okay? Thou didst march. Let me go back to 11. The sun and moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of thine arrows, speaking of those missiles, they went, and at the shining of thy glittering spear. Thou didst march through the land in indignation. Thou didst thresh the heathen in anger. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people, even for salvation with the anointing. So when that glittering spear gets sent off, those chariots of salvation are going to zip over here and deliver the Lord's elect. Okay, and they're going to be changed in the blink of an eye. Let's go to 1 Corinthians. First Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 50. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of the power, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. So when we get taken up, if we're of that number, our current bodies have to be changed. These bodies cannot go on a chariot. The Lord could do that, but he's not going to do that. Okay? I'll probably read it down to about 54. But this is verse 51. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. So remember, those who have died in this ministry first, when the chariots of salvation come, they're going to be the first ones to be taken up on a ship. Okay? But then those who remain that are still alive, they're going to be taken up while still in these earthly bodies. And as they're going up, they're going to be changed in the blink of an eye. Okay? Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. In the spiritual, because Donald Trump is our president right now. And he might be the last Trump. He might be the last president before we get to see the return of our Lord and Savior, Yahweh Shai. It's very possible. In a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, so as we're being taken up into what you would deem a spaceship, as we're getting pulled up by those tractor beams, we're going to be changed in the blink of an eye. Let me hold this, okay? This is Psalms chapter 104 and 3. Who layeth the beams of his chambers, speaking of those tractor beams, in the waters, and that's speaking of the people, his elect, because water can represent people. Revelations chapter 17 and verse 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples, and multitudes, and nations, and tongues. All right? So the water that those tractor beams are going to be laid down upon is representing people, but not everybody. It's representing the elect people of Israel. Okay? And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, the whore is representing America today, Babylon, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So those chariots are going to hover above a multitude of people, and within those multitude of people, they're going to take out the elect of Israel. Okay, they're going to abduct the elect. Psalms 104 and 3 again. Who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, speaking of the people. Those tractor beams are going to come down upon the elect. Who maketh the clouds his chariots. Who walketh upon the wings of the wind, showing you that these vehicles fly because they're quote-unquote spaceships. Okay? They can not only travel from one galaxy to another, but they can change from one dimension to another. Okay? So let's go to 1 Corinthians 15. In verse 52 again. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. So right now, we're between that period of the 6th and 7th trumpet. But when that final trumpet does go off, being that 7th trumpet, that's how you know, okay, this is it. It's over for this kingdom. Now the kingdom of heaven is now being established officially. Okay? And we're going to be changed in the blinking of an eye, in the blink of an eye, in the twinkling of an eye, before the eyes of those who are left down here, looking up, glancing at those making it, while they themselves are still here. Verse 53, for this corruptible, being our mortal flesh, must put on incorruption, because we're going to be changed into immortals, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when we go back to the first scripture I read, this time is going to end through the day of doom. And then through that, guess what? Immortality is going to come. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. So we'll be caught up in the clouds, and we'll be changed in the blink of an eye. And then once we're on these chariots, or this chariot, as this destruction is happening, the Lord is eventually going to take us over to Mount Zion, and we're going to be in our new bodies, and we're going to descend from a huge chariot in our new bodies as we await to be crowned. Now let's go to the book of Revelation chapter 21. Revelation chapter 21 and verse 1. And I saw a new heaven and new earth. The new heaven is us in our new bodies. The new earth is referencing the rulership of Yahweh Shai on earth, being the kingdom of Israel. Because the old world, being Esau's world, by that time would have been passed away, which is the near future. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven, being Esau's world, and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from the power out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. So this is referencing us, New Jerusalem, coming down from heaven, coming down upon Mount Zion. So you have to imagine this beautiful sight. Okay, you see this chariot ascending over a mountain, and then in the process you see these Israelites coming down from this chariot with this glow. They have a beautiful glow, okay? Just imagine seeing that from a distance. You're looking at a beautiful mountain. There's a huge chariot hovered over it. And then you see these immortals coming down from this chariot. Wow. Revelations chapter 21 and 2. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from the power out of heaven. And the reason why we'll be coming down from heaven is because we'll be coming down from them chariots, or that chariot. I believe it's going to be one chariot, and then Yahawashi may send other chariots to get Israelites in other parts of the earth, but we're going to find out eventually. But we know for certain Yahawashi is coming to deliver. He's the primary deliverer. The angels are just coming, just as an extra flex. Yahawashi could do it by himself, okay? But that's not the prophecy. Verse 5. And he that sat upon the throne said, behold, I make all things new. So we're going to have new bodies. This earth is going to be refreshed. We'll never have to taste death ever again. Okay? And he said unto me, write, for these words are true and faithful. So this vision that John saw is true. And I happen to have a vision very similar to this. Okay? Verse 10. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from the power. So you have to imagine, if nuclear missiles come, Yahawashi and the holy angels zip over here to deliver the elect, on top of adding to the destruction of the missiles. And then as we're watching the destruction in the presence of the Lamb and the rest of the angels, we get taken over to Mount Zion in a huge chariot as we're in our new bodies, because before we even made it, to the chariot, speaking in future tense here, our bodies will be changed. So by the time we come back down, we have new bodies, okay? And we're coming down, ascending or descending upon a mountain, a great mountain. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from the power, having the glory of the power. And her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. And that's what you see with these Dragon Ball Z characters. They'll have like a bright light around them. It might be a blue light, it might be a white light, but they'll have an aura around them. And this is what John is seeing. He's seeing Israelites coming down from heaven, but they have this aura, they have this bright glow about them, man. And you got to imagine, in the kingdom, just like in your house, you might like to have those blue lights, or you might like to have those red lights, or different colored lights. Well, you'll be able to change your glow, man. You might want your glow to be neon blue today, or you might want your glow to be neon red, okay? But you have to imagine seeing a great people, a new Jerusalem, immortals coming down from a huge chariot, okay, upon Mount Zion. This is what John is seeing, okay? And I remember I had a vision. It was me. I was looking at a huge mountain, and there was a huge chariot ascending above that mountain. And that chariot looked to be the color of maybe like a dark green color. It wasn't a bright looking chariot. It wasn't silver or gold, which they can be, but it looked like a dark green jewel, you know? It looked like it was just real smooth looking, like a green jewel, okay? A dark green jewel. Almost like it could have passed for brown, but it wasn't a bright chariot. It didn't have a light or nothing about it in my vision. It just looked like a gigantic ship, and it was in the form of a disc, but it looked like a diamond or a jasper stone itself. But I didn't see any Israelites descending from the ship. I woke up before that happened, okay? Let's go to Revelations chapter 14. In verse 1, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. So those who have been taken up in the ship are going to be taken to Mount Zion with Yahushua, and they're going to be crowned. Okay, they're going to have crowns placed upon their heads. That's what's going to happen to the Lord's elect during World War III. They're going to be delivered and made immortals. Okay? Let's go to 1 Corinthians again. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 40. There are also celestial bodies, being like those in the spiritual realm. Immortal bodies. When you think of celestial, think of like the ceiling, because the ceiling is above you. And then when you think of terrestrial, think of the terrain, the soil, okay? There are also celestial bodies or spiritual bodies and bodies terrestrial. So in the kingdom, we're going to be a hybrid. We're going to be celestial and terrestrial, meaning we're going to be like the angels, but we're also going to have sex, unlike the angels. We're going to be immortal like the angels, but we're going to be able to enjoy eating food. The angels don't need to do that, but we're going to be just like them. Okay, we're going to be celestial and terrestrial. There are also celestial bodies and terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. And we're going to have a hybrid of both. We'll be able to enjoy sex, enjoy food. Give me a moment. Hello? No, I'm still out here teaching people. All right, I gotta get back to this lesson. I'll try to send it to you soon. Verse 41, 1 Corinthians 15 and 41. I answered it just in case it was an emergency, because normally my woman knows not to call me when I'm out here, man. Verse 41, there is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of stars, for one star different from another star in glory. So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption, and we've been sown in corruption. We're in these mortal bodies, and I believe the word mortal itself actually means death. It is raised in corruption, so we're going to be raised, taken up into a spaceship, and made immortals. And then taken to Mount Zion, brought down upon Mount Zion, and Yahushua is going to place crowns upon those men's heads. Okay? 2nd Ezra chapter 2. I'm going to try to just get to the point to save time here. 2nd Ezra chapter 2 and verse 40. Take thy number, O Zion, being 144,000. And shut up those of thine that are clothed in white, which have fulfilled the law of the Lord. The number of thy children, whom thou longest for, is fulfilled. Beseech the power of the Lord, that thy people which have been called from the beginning may be hallowed. Speaking of the 144,000. I, Ezra, saw upon Mount Zion a great people, because that's where the Lord's going to take us. That chariot's going to ascend above Mount Zion, and we're going to descend on the top of that mountain. I, Ezra, saw upon the Mount Zion a great people, whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord with songs. So Ezra saw a similar vision to John. I have to send my lady something that's kind of inconvenient, you know, for me to have to do this in a lesson. But I have to get this done at a reasonable time, because she's doing it for me. She's actually doing me a favor. So I need to do this right quick. But Ezra, just like John, saw our people coming down from a great chariot, a great big chariot, man. And then Ezra saw the 144,000 actually being crowned by Yahweh Shai himself. I'll have to do that in a minute. I can't do two things at once. I tried and I failed. But this is Jeremiah chapter 31. Jeremiah chapter 31 and 34. And they shall teach no more everyone his neighbor and every man his brother. So in that day, when we go back to our kingdom, we're going to be totally righteous. We're not going to be required to come out here to the streets to preach and teach this word. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord Yahweh. For they shall all know me. All the Israelites are going to be perfect, from the least of them unto the greatest. So if you were saying the laws are done away with on this side, you're going to be the least in the kingdom, but you're still going to be in the kingdom as an Israelite. Okay? And you're going to be perfect. All right? For they shall know me from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord Yahweh. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. So we're not going to be subject to vanity anymore once we get taken up and delivered and carried over to Mount Zion in our new bodies. Because once that happens, immortality starts, man. And the reason why is because we're always going to be righteous. You know, sin, that brought forth death, but we're not going to be sinners anymore. So death wouldn't be necessary. It's going to be literally impossible as an Israelite to die, because we're going to be wired to be completely righteous. Now let's go to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 1 and verse 1. Love righteousness, ye that be judges of the earth. And in the world to come, we're going to be the rulers of the earth. And we're going to run the earth in complete righteousness. Think of the Lord with a good heart, and in simplicity of heart, seek him. I'm going to jump down to verse 15. For righteousness is immortal. So we're going to be immortal because we're going to be righteous. We're never going to go off again. These laws are going to be written in our inward parts. So there will be no reason for us to go off ever again. So going back to Jeremiah. I'm going to read 33. Jeremiah 31 and 33. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts. So we're going to be perfect. We're going to be immortal. Why? Because righteousness is immortal. And we're going to be completely righteous. Okay? After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts. So this is speaking of the new covenant, which we are not under. Not yet. And write in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. And that's going to start once we get those new bodies. The moment that we get changed in the twinkling of an eye, that's when the new covenant starts. Okay? And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor. Why? Because the laws are going to be written in our minds. We're going to completely know the ways of the Heavenly Father 100%, without doubt, without wavering, without forgetting anything. Okay, we're going to be completely righteous. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord Yahweh, for they shall all know me from the least of them unto the greatest of them. So all Israel is going to know Yahweh and Yahweh Shai in the kingdom. Saith the Lord power, for I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. Okay, so we look forward to this place being destroyed. And in our kingdom, seeing that we're going to be completely righteous, we're never going to have to taste death again. We're going to be teaching you other nations righteousness. We're not going to teach our own people. We're going to teach the heathen righteousness, though, because they're not going to have these laws in their inward part. Okay? Give me one moment. I'm going to try something one more time before I go forward. This is Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 1. The word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, speaking of the southern and northern kingdom. And it shall come to pass in the last days, that we've been in for quite a while, but now we're at the last of the last days, that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. So again, we're going to be carried over to Mount Zion when we get taken up. And then we're going to hover above Mount Zion, descend down unto it, and that's where Yahushua is going to crown his elect. And our women, although it's not written, we're just putting it together because women are going to be saved also. Our women are going to watch it happen, okay? They're going to be on the sideline watching it happen, okay? And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. So they're going to know, the Israelites, these are the people to be like. These are the people I strive to want to be like. These are the gods of the earth. And many people shall go and say, come ye, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the power of Jacob. And he will teach us of his ways. So we're not going to teach our own people, as I read before, but we are going to teach the heathen righteousness. And he will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So we are going to have to tell these nations what to do, what not to do, how to walk, how not to walk. What we're doing with you Israelites right now in the kingdom, that's what we're going to be doing with the heathen. Okay? And seeing that Yahushua didn't die for their sins, they're going to have to actually sacrifice animals, just like in the Old Testament. Because in our kingdom, the heathen are going to basically be living how we used to live in the Old Testament in our kingdom. Okay? But us, we'll never go off again. Verse 4. And he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people, because they're not going to be perfect. So when it comes to these nations, we're going to rule them with the rod of iron. So if they go off, we're going to beat them in the back of the head, man. And watch all they damn brain matter go everywhere. And then bring them right back to life like it never happened, as the other heathens watched it happen, putting them in fear to know, don't do that. He ain't playing around. We're going to have an abundance of weaponry. We'll be able to just turn our arm into weapons, man. Okay? We'll be able to turn our physical legs into weapons without having to add some attachment like in Esau's world. Okay? Like Cyberpunk or something. And he shall judge among the nations and shall rebuke many people. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. So there's not going to be any more world wars, no more civil wars. There are going to be heathens getting beat by a rod of iron if they're not acting accordingly. Okay, there's still going to be heathens being wicked and going against the grain, and they will be punished. It's going to be fun, man. The heathens aren't going to be completely perfect. That would be kind of boring, man. We need some ass to kick. But this is speaking of, like in this time, you got all these civil wars, all these different measures of war that have come to pass that you can read about in history, in secular history. All right? That's not going to be in our kingdom. You're not going to hear about the nation of Israel going at it again with the Philistines. You're not going to hear about the nation of Israel going at it again with the nation of Edom. We're going to be in complete power. We're going to be unfuckwittable. Okay? Completely. All right? O house of Jacob, come ye, and let us walk in the light of the Lord. And we're literally going to be walking in the light. Because when John saw the Israelites coming down as New Jerusalem, he saw them lighting up. Okay? They look like transparent, let me just go back to that, man. Because it's a very beautiful vision in the book of Revelations 21. Revelations chapter 21 and verse 11. Verse 10, and he carried me away in the spirit to a great mountain and a high mountain, being Mount Zion, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from the power, having the glory of the power, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like unto a jasper stone, clear as crystal. So our people was seen lighting up, man. Okay? They may have been, lighting up with the color of white, the color of blue, the color of green. Okay, but you can still see their physical appearance, but there was a light around them, like Dragon Ball Z. Hello. Yeah. No. What's the problem with it? Huh. Okay, well, what time do they close? Yeah, I'll just worry about it when I get done. All right. Love you, goodbye. Now that I think about it, I'm gonna try to look up some Dragon Ball Z characters. It's kind of bright out here, so it might not show too well. Just to kind of give you an idea of what John was seeing. Of course, none of these pictures are showing me what I want to see here. Okay, so if you look at these two characters here, I don't know if you can see it because it's real bright. Yeah, I can't tell if you can see it or not, but they literally have a light around them. Let me try this. See how they have that light around them? Well, that's similar to how John saw Israelites descending out of a chariot upon Mount Zion. That's how we're going to be, man. We're going to have an aura about us. We're going to literally be illuminated. We're literally going to be transformed into the children of light. And see, that's why the scriptures tell you that these words aren't just words. These words are powerful. Because in the kingdom, these words are going to be literal, man. We're literally going to be children of light. We're literally going to have a glow. Okay? It's no longer going to be metaphorical. Okay? We're going to have to humble our glory just for the heathen to even glance at us, man. All right? So seeing that we'll teach the nations righteousness, but we won't have to teach our people, shows you that they are not going to be a part of our kingdom. Okay? Let's go to Matthew 19. Matthew chapter 19 and 27. Then answered Peter and said unto him, Behold, we have forsaken all and followed thee. What shall we have therefore? And Yahushua said unto them, Verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So that was a fair question that Peter asked, seeing you give up a lot, you make a lot of sacrifices coming into this ministry. So Peter is like, what are we going to get doing this, man? It's a logical reason. It's a logical question, I should say. All right? But if we're of that number, we're going to be sitting on thrones. There's not just going to be 12 thrones, which is going into the 12 disciples, because it tells you in the kingdom how the names of the 12 disciples are going to be written, where it goes into the foundation of the kingdom being built. It talks about the name of the 12 apostles. Okay? But not just the 12 apostles are going to be sitting on thrones. The 144,000 are going to be sitting on thrones. Okay? So that's what we have to look forward to if we endure and hold on. Okay? Revelations chapter 5. Let's see where I am. Revelations chapter 5 and verse 9. And they sung a new song. And the old song was going into when our people were delivered from the hands of Pharaoh. The new song is going to be our people being delivered from the hands of the modern day Pharaoh. Okay, being Esau, Edom. Okay, and they sung a new song saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof. For thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of every kindred, tongue, people, and nation. Okay, so we are going to rule if we be of that number. Okay, we're going to be redeemed and we're going to rule. And has made us, verse 10, and has made us unto our power kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. So we're going to reign on the earth with spiritual bodies. So when the missiles come, if we're of the elect, we're going to be taken up into a ship, changed into a new immortal body. We're going to watch the destruction happen. Those who are dead are going to be taken up first as if they were never dead in the first place. Because when you die, typically you don't die, you just go to sleep. But they're going to be on the chariot right along with those who get saved after, who get taken up after as the missiles are coming in their new bodies, watching the destruction in the presence of the Lamb and the rest of the holy angels. Then taken over to Mount Zion. As they're ascending over Mount Zion, they're going to be descended upon Mount Zion. They're going to be given crowns upon their heads. And I would assume, just extrapolating, that the women who also get delivered, they're going to watch it happen. Okay? Psalms chapter 2. Psalms chapter 2 and verse 8. I'm in the wrong translation. Let me go to my KJV. Psalms chapter 2 and verse 8. Some of those other translations do come in handy though. Ask of me and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance. So we're going to have heathen slaves in immortal bodies. So you're not going to have a one-up on us in that day. And the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession, because we're going to reign. Okay, this is a vision that John saw. He saw Israelites reigning. He saw Israelites in power. Okay? In spiritual bodies, complete immortals, man. That if you were to see our future self in these bodies, we'd faint. Okay? Thou shalt break them with the rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth. So we're going to be the kings and the judges of the earth forever and ever. As we get taken out away from the destruction. Okay? That's what we're looking forward to. That's what we're hoping for. Okay? And we're going to rule with the rod of iron because, well, we're going to be in power. And seeing that we're going to be in power and the Lord's a man of war, he's still going to allow you heathen to be rebellious, to be stupid. We'll have the ability to put the spirit on you to do something stupid just so we can bash you with a rod of iron. Just because. We are going to be on a whole different level in our kingdom. You'll get a rest when the Sabbath comes, but when the Sabbath comes, if we decide to, we'll just plague you in your dreams. It will feel just as real. Okay? Revelations chapter 2 and 26. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works until the end, to him will I give power over the nations. And he shall rule them with the rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter's clay. They shall be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father. So if you had a rod of iron as a mortal man, and you were to bash somebody with that thing, it's over. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to be immortals with the rod of iron. We're going to be supermen. So we're literally going to be on a whole different level. And our rods of iron are going to be so heavy that if a heathen tried to pick it up, not only would they lose their head because you're touching our weapons, but they wouldn't be able to lift it. Okay? The crowns that we're going to wear on our heads, it's going to be too heavy for the heathen to lift, man. We're going to be totally decked out. We're going to be totally strong, complete strong, complete, we're going to be complete power, just like the Heavenly Father and His Son, just on a lesser level. Okay? Isaiah chapter 19 and verse 18. In that day shall 5 cities, and this is happening right now, okay? In that day shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt, speaking of America, and the 5 cities is what? It's north, south, east, west, and midwest. Those are the 5 cities. Those are likened unto the 7 churches that you read about in the book of Revelations. That's likened unto the 5 cities here in Babylon today. Okay? In that day shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt speak the language of Canaan. And what's that language? That language is Hebrew. And that's how we know we're soon awaiting our change, those new bodies. Because biblical prophecy is just going by smooth with no issues, man. It's just flowing in motion. And as we're watching it happen, we're just getting closer and closer to other prophecies that are destined to happen as others take place, because the Lord deals with order. In that day shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt speak the language of Canaan, and swear to the Lord Yahweh of hosts. One shall be called the city of destruction. In that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt. And right here you have an altar. Okay? When you have a tripod set up, okay? Give me a moment. When you have a tripod set up, it's likened unto a tripod altar. Okay? Now the tripod altar, I think it was more so used in China, maybe Rome. Let me just look into it. So it says here, a tripod altar is a 3-legged religious or ritual vessel often used for offerings, burning incense, or holding sacred cauldrons. So our tripods are likened unto tripod altars. So our tripods is actually sending up these videos like incense. Okay, just like how we pray, our prayers go up like incense to the heavens. These videos are sent up to the outer atmosphere through the satellites, just like how incense goes into the air. Okay? Isaiah 19 and 19. In that day shall there be an altar to the Lord Yahweh in the midst of the land of Egypt. And where you see brothers teaching, that's where you're seeing those altars. Oftentimes, brothers will have tripods, which is likened unto a tripod altar. Okay? And a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. Okay? Let's go forward. Zephaniah chapter 3. Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 9. For then will I turn to the people a pure language, being the language of Canaan, that they may call upon the name of the Lord Yahweh to serve him with one consent. And that's what you're seeing here in modern day Egypt. That's what you're seeing among these 5 cities. Okay? Being north, south, east, west, and midwest. That's the 5 cities here in Egypt. And we're speaking the language of Canaan. When we say Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, that's an example of speaking the language of Canaan. Showing you that we would use the Hebrew names. We would use the official names when we call upon the names. For then will I turn to the people, the Israelites, a pure language, being Hebrew, that they may call upon the name of the Lord Yahweh to serve him with one consent. And those that are going to be called up on them chariots when the missiles come and changed in the twinkling of an eye and given those immortal bodies are going to be they who call upon the names of the Lord in his true form. Those who have been set up from the beginning. You need the names to be caught up on a ship. I'll close it with Acts chapter 4. Acts chapter 4 and verse 12. Neither is there salvation, and salvation is coming through Yahweh Shai when he returns with a host of angels right along with them in spaceships. Neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. And those names are Yahweh through Yahweh Shai. Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled, and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Yahweh Shai. And a lot of people actually marvel when they hear us bring out this truth. They look at us like we're just average guys, which, we are. We still gotta, pay bills and do things like normal people gotta do. But overall, no, we're not average guys, although we're average guys. If that makes sense. It sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. It's like in the eyes of people, they're looking at us a certain way. They're not expecting us to be someone who's able to break down the scriptures. They're not expecting us to be able to go precept upon precept to help them answer their questions. They're expecting us to be caught up in a lie. They're expecting us to fade out. They're expecting us to be some seasonal prophet. Okay? But seeing our boldness, seeing what we stand on, okay, people are actually in that spirit like, hey, these guys may actually know what they're talking about. These guys may have actually walked with Yahweh Shai himself. And yes, some of us have, and we're here in the flesh. And a lot of you don't like that for whatever reason. Instead of you rejoicing and saying, hey, one of Yahweh Shai's men is back, or possibly back, you'll look at a man and say, it couldn't be this guy. Not him. But that's how people treat you, because that's how the apostles were treated back then. Okay? Verse 13. Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, because they didn't go to their theologian schools back then to learn. Okay? Like a lot of the scribes and Pharisees did. Perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Yahweh Shai. And just as they were treated like that back then, they would be back in this day and age treated the same way, looked at as unlearned. You would perceive them in a negative light. Okay? But anyways, I pray this lesson was simple and edifying. We should be looking forward to hopefully being delivered, taken up in that ship, changed in the twinkling of an eye, received with a lot of afflictions, a lot of catching hell, received with a lot of enduring, but it's going to be so worth it, okay? And then once we're changed in those spaceships, coming down upon Mount Zion in our new bodies, shining, as Jake used to say back in the days, like with Cash Money, they used to be like, yeah, we shining. They say that a lot. I used to say that a lot too. Jake used that. We shining. Well, we're literally going to be shining in our kingdom. So I pray that this lesson was simple, edifying, easy to understand. All praises unto our power, the power of Israel, not the power of any other nation. And because I don't come in my own name, what is the name of him that I serve? Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Barakah Kodash. Shalom.